Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 93, by the way.
7 more.
And you said you were like the 100th episode. We're gonna do something fun. And
Conspiracies.
What's that gonna be? Oh, is that gonna be? I don't feel like we can wait 7 episodes for that.
Conspiracies.
Yeah. Welcome back. Happy Friday. We have a pretty fun, pretty interesting guest today.
Someone who's a lot smarter than we are.
You know, we've been talking about things. I don't know.
Well, we always get a lot
of several streams.
People give us a lot of crap because we don't talk about backpacking much. And
no, we're gonna talk about backpacking.
Well, we got an expert on.
But anyway, I will really quick. I'll bring him up on the screen here. This is Colonel. Is it Eisberg? Oh, whoa. We lost your audio.
Oh, I got you.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No.
No. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey man, we are great. Thank you for joining. We talked a little bit off air prior to this. Will you go ahead and give like your official bio, just so we don't butcher it? I was reading your little info page. It's really long, which is awesome. But go ahead and just give the people watching a quick little few sentences on who you are and why we're talking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But first I'll lead off with just a little disclaimer that the views and statements here are my own. You know, they don't represent the United States government, the U.S. Army, or the National Defense University where I currently work. But at any rate, no. So I'm a colonel in the U.S. Army, actually affiliated with the Army National Guard. So I'm a Title 10 AGR. I've been in for about 33 years now. Nice. Started in the Navy back in 1989. And I was a sub hunter and rescue swimmer on helicopters.
Oh shit.
Back at the end of the Cold War. And I was stationed up in, after a year long of training, I was stationed up in Boston, Massachusetts, and at Naval Air Station South Weymouth. And following that, I joined the Guard while I was going to college for a little beer money, and with the intent of getting out of college and going right back into the Navy to fly. But it was in the 90s during the downsizing, and when I called the Navy, they said, nope, sorry, we're not hiring, so good luck with your Army career. Yeah, exactly. So, so I was up in New England for quite a long time, and I moved back to around D.C. I grew up in Maryland. And so went to work on Capitol Hill, worked for a senator for a while, and was just doing the weekend warrior thing with the Guard. And after at 9/11, I was actually at Fort Dix, New Jersey, headed to Bosnia for a rotation of peacekeeping when 9/11 happened. And after that, I got back and I was doing my lobbying job. I had finished working for the senator. I was a lobbyist, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go back in. So I did, and I've been in ever since. And it's been a great ride.
What were you a lobbyist for?
I was a lobbyist for the National Guard Association in the United States.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Will you?
So I spent about total 8 years on Capitol Hill. So first as a Senate staffer for Senator Jim Jeffords out of Vermont.
I was going to ask you what senator you work for. Okay.
Yeah, Jumpin' Jim, as they called him back then, because he the Bush administration pressured him. He left independent, really at heart. So he left the Republican Party, caucused with the Democrats, and gave power back over to the Democrats in the Senate. And so it was a little touchy issue back in the day.
Yeah.
Jumpin' Jim.
Yeah. I never heard that. Jumpin' Jim.
He's a great American.
Okay. I do want to ask about backpacking before we get into more militaristic.
Well, I think it would be interesting to understand, like, you reached out to us, and like maybe tell us like why you reached out to us.
That's a good way to start.
So I got in just a few years ago into backpacking stuff, and just following different channels and watching you guys and a couple other folks out there, and as you well know, it can be overwhelming sometimes because you have to attend to your personal life and stop watching YouTube. But I noticed that one of the guys I was following, Spaguyver, had a common friend of mine on Facebook who I had graduated with from the National War College back in 2018. So I reached out to her and said, hey, do you know this guy, Spaguyver? And she's like, oh, yeah, I know exactly who he is. And so I reached out to Mark and said, hey, I'm friends with so-and-so. And, from that point on, yes. So
I should have told him. I should have told him you were coming on tonight.
Yeah.
I totally meant to. I didn't realize you guys knew each other.
we don't. So it was just one
Like
little reach
through,
out to-
yeah.
Yeah, so I was listening to him with you guys on your new political podcast. So I was like, you know what? I know Mark's been out of it for a while, out of the military and stuff like that. And I could tell he didn't have some of the answers. And I could tell you guys were really curious.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, we are curious.
Yeah. And I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not the expert either. I'm now a faculty member at the National War College. So, there's a saying, right? Those who can't teach, can't do, actually teach. So I've been doing for a long time, and I got the opportunity to teach. So I'm not in the operations center. I'm not seeing things live and stuff like that, but I'm in it enough in the national security enterprise that, I've got my finger on some of the things.
You definitely know more than us.
Yeah.
So, also, will you share what you're drinking?
So I'm drinking a little Eagle Rare.
Where's ours?
We got 3 down there.
Okay. Is that hard to get where you are?
No. As a matter of fact, over at the Marine Corps base, right by the Pentagon, they continuously keep it stocked up.
That's
and
good.
They have
Really?
great prices over there.
Is there other bourbons?
How much is a bottle of Eagle Rare for you?
I think I got that for about $39.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's way better than we were getting them in Michigan.
Michigan marks them up to like 55.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's sometimes they'll realize how underpriced they are.
Yeah.
Like I'm a Lagavulin 16 drinker.
Oh, okay.
And they used to sell it for $70, and it's now selling for $115 a bottle.
Oh, wow. We haven't gotten into that yet. I feel like that's the next purview.
That's the Ron Swanson drink.
I've heard of Lagavulin.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Doesn't he drink Lagavulin?
He definitely does, but there's like tons of different kinds of them.
Yeah. Well, he's a good American, so whatever he drinks, I'll drink.
Yeah. I also do want to talk about how you want to get into YouTube in terms of backpacking with kids. Do you want to talk about how many children do you have? Like, do you backpack with them?
Yeah. So one of the things, you guys are new parents, right?
We are. I know. We're rookies.
Yeah. So congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
Congrats. So listen, kids are the best thing in the world, but sometimes they can be an anchor, and you stop doing what you enjoy doing and what you love.
Yeah.
But you've talked with Devin, and that guy has never stopped. I mean,
No.
he took his kid,
Right.
as a baby. But so I just realized that if I want my kids to experience, because I grew up in the country, if I want my kids to experience that, I've got to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started getting them on short hikes. I'll go in the backyard and set the tent up. And actually, my 7-year-old's now, he prefers to be a hammock camper.
Good.
Oh, nice. That's advanced for a 7-year-old.
Yeah. And we tried the spreader bar, but the weight ratio just
Really?
Really?
I didn't
That is
think about
interesting,
that.
actually.
So you have to go gathered in only.
How many kids do you have?
No, so I have two boys.
Okay.
One is 7 and one is 4, almost 5. So he'll be 5 in July. And they're just a blast. So I took my 7-year-old out to Dali Sods last year.
Oh, nice.
For his first 2-night, 3-day hike. And he was a champion.
Yeah,
Absolute
That's
champion.
awesome.
Yeah.
So 2 nights at 7.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we did it in November too. As a matter of fact,
That's when didn't we bail in November?
Are you trying to get him to hate backpacking?
so this was so you guys just take a note here, because this is bad parenting. Don't make these bad decisions. Now listen, I took all the proper gear. I took changes of clothes.
Yeah.
Except the one thing that I totally forgot were pull-ups.
Okay.
Yeah. So first night we get out there, it got pretty cold, and he wakes up. He's like, "Daddy, I'm all wet." And I was like, "Oh no, forgot the pull." Yeah. So I got him into his change of clothes, and it was fine. I got the fire going in the morning. I got his clothes, his wet clothes all set up. I got everything drying, and he goes over to the next campsite. This guy who was hiking from the Atlantic out to the Pacific with no trail. He was just walking. He was
what?
walking. Yeah, it was kind of weird, but whatever. He was enjoying life. But so my son's over there playing with them, and next thing I know, I hear, "Oh no!" and he fell in the stream, so he got wet.
Your
with the
son?
second,
In November.
Oh,
In
wow.
so I had one more pair of dry clothes for him, you know, and I was like, "All right, buddy, come sit here. You're not going near the stream again."
Yeah.
So,
Hey, props to your son. That's 7 years old? Dolly Sods
I know.
in November?
no, so then he was 6. He was
Oh,
just
right.
he
Last
just
year.
turned 6 because it was November. Yeah,
And did he enjoy the experience overall?
loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Okay.
What was the weather like for you?
So the daytime was nice. I mean, just beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, good all day, but it got down. I think the first night it got down to about 28 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh,
Second night was a little warmer.
And then the trails freeze. Because they're
you got you have a 6-year-old out there.
yeah. So when is this YouTube channel coming? Because you're gonna have a lot.
that was
of
great.
people.
That was great content, man. You missed out on. That would have been great content. I
Oh
would
no,
have
I got
watched
it.
that.
I've got all the video footage. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
All
pretty
sorts of
awesome.
stuff. But my problem is I'm older. I'm a technical geek. I'm just trying to learn it. But dealing with the 2 kids, dealing with family, with
a lot.
work, everything
Yeah.
else, it's tough. So I'm sure once I learn how to do it, it'll be fine. But yeah, I already got the name going. I've established a channel. I've been working on editing and stuff. It's tough. So, and the channel is going to be called Way Out Back Adventures. So
Okay.
WOBA. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And so I'm working on some photos or drawings or stuff for the background
Yeah.
for the channel and stuff like that. So
Well,
hopefully I'll get it going soon.
when you're live, we'll have you back, and we can get on that. My last backpacking related question is how, and this is something Andy and I are interested in, but how old do they have to be before we do this?
I think you can probably get them out there 6 to 8 months as long as you're willing to carry them on the backpack.
Like, do you think,
on an infant backpack?
so like Andy's about a year behind me. So like my daughter's almost 2, his son will be 1. And I'm trying to think like when is the right, I mean, Devin's a bad example because his kids are out there like when they're like 8 months old, ready to go. But I'm trying to think because I want her to like not hate it. Right. So it's like a fine line between being old enough and enjoying it and then having like the right weather and like the right everything. I want her to like really enjoy it. So like I'm trying to figure out when that perfect time is, and maybe that doesn't exist. I don't know. So
no, look, every child's different, right? But exposing them as early as possible to things, making the experience enjoyable. The most important thing is don't force them to do something that you love because they may not love it.
Yeah.
And at that age they're scared. So what I would do with the little guys is I would take them out to the local parks here and I'd just do gradual test runs. And like, okay, we're going to hike a mile. And I wouldn't tell them that. We'd just go, and if they were able to do a mile and come back, I was like, all right, well, that's a good test run. And finally, when I was able to go hike out 3 miles and 3 miles back, now granted, there were a lot of stops and there was some whining.
Yeah. I assume there's a lot of whining.
But you got to be creative. So I would bring snacks. I would bring games. Like I'd bring a Frisbee and we'd stop in the middle of the trail and we'd just start playing Frisbee.
Oh, that's smart.
And he loved it.
That is smart.
I need a YouTube channel with this content ready for me to consume, John. I'm waiting.
I'm telling you, there's literally.
Yeah, I know.
you guys-
I know.
That's it.
I know.
Yeah, you have your own
There's
niche.
a few individuals.
Yeah.
I know Becker has done a couple. Devin's done a bunch.
Yeah.
There's a couple folks out there that have done a couple, but there's a huge market for it, but there's no content out there.
Yeah.
So
And kid stuff in general on YouTube that's the hot stuff.
Yeah, you could like go to camp and then have them open stuff.
Oh,
Open
yeah.
toys, get paid.
Oh, and then you can test kids' gear.
Yeah.
I had him with this little backpack, and the only thing he carried, I told him he has to carry 2 things. He has to carry his own air mattress, and then he had to carry his stuffed animal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you carried
he was good
everything
with
else.
that, and I carried the rest of the gear.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. I'm excited to see where this goes. And as new parents, like there is a very big gap for this sort of instructional content on YouTube, and hopefully people like you can fill it. All right. It's time to talk about Ukraine.
Okay. I have a good way to kick this off. So I have a running friend. Remember he ran the
Yeah.
half. Yeah. So he's in the Air Force, and he does logistics. So, and I know that's
Andy was talking about this. This is not a very sexy question.
Yeah. It's a very logistics. I think is just like very generalized, you know. But when we were running a couple weeks ago, he's like, finally, everybody who works in logistics is getting some like credit.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing in Ukraine like how poor Russian logistics are. And it got me thinking, like, in your view, when you look at like how they've invaded Ukraine from like a logistical standpoint, is the news in the media correct and it's just like so poor and so pathetic, or are we all being sent awry?
No, so I think there's a number of things at play with this. One, I think there was some poor planning on their part.
Yeah.
Two, most importantly, I think they had a bad strategy. They thought they were going to be able to make similar to what the U.S. did in Iraq back in 2003 with a Thunder Run, downtown and just get in right away. It's completely different operational area, completely different terrain, and they didn't account for the resistance that the Ukrainians were going to put up. And let's be clear, Ukrainians are not Russians.
Right.
They are both Slavs, and they are a former satellite state of the Soviet Union. But they have been training on their own for quite some time. And there's one thing that they are very, very willing to die for, and that's their existence as a country, as a people. So yeah, I think there are a number of things that play on the Russian end. So no, I don't think you're being fed a lot. I think there was some
is it as bad? Is it as bad? Like I look at the Western media, like Andy said, and like they're painting and I think you're talking specifically like about this like convoy.
No, just in general, it's just like you hear all the stories about like, oh, their vehicles break down and they can't repair them because they don't have the logistics to support it. They're out of gas because they don't have the
like
right
I say, like the
logistics.
medical kits are from like the 80s, and it's like, is it really that bad?
And they're using conscripts. I just don't know what to believe.
Yeah, so it's definitely a conscript army, but they also have some professionals. It's back in the similar to what the U.S. used to have when we had the draft, right? All right, so you had your full-time lifers that stayed in. They were professional soldiers, and then you had the draftees who would get drafted and they'd do their turn and then they go home. And we decided as a country to get rid of that. Well, Russia hasn't done that, and I'm sure they're patriots, Russian patriots and stuff, but there's a big problem with the conscripts in the Russian army, and they do about a 1-2 year stint, and they get hazed.
I've read about that.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can't imagine that they are raring to go when they just got their butts kicked by their guys who were 1 year senior than them.
Yeah.
Or the officers, the junior officers who aren't well trained at all. And the Russian army doesn't really have a solid non-commissioned officer or NCO corps like the United States does.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wow.
I want to ask a really stupid higher level question. Why is Russia invading Ukraine?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right?
Like, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but like, why do you?
It's now just come down to Putin's just that crazy.
Well, my thought was, and the things you read is like the reunification of the former Soviet Union. But why do you think? Like, why is this happening?
So that gets right at the crux of what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So I'm a faculty member of the National War College, and we teach national security strategy to the Joint Force, to the interagency folks from, whether or not it's State Department or, Justice or what have you, and international fellows from our friends and allies as well. And what we teach is, why are you going to do what you're doing? What instrument of power are you going to use in order to do it? And you can go back to the theorists, whether or not it's, von Clausewitz that the Army loves, or, you go to Sun Tzu or Mao Zedong, or,
oh, nice.
The bottom line is, why is Putin doing what he's doing? It's protects his interest. Now we can guess, we can make assumptions about what his interests are. And I think we'd be pretty close we were to say he's worried about turning Ukraine into a NATO power on his border.
Okay.
You know, if you look at what he's done so far, he did it in Georgia. Okay. He did it in Ukraine back in 2014 in Crimea and the Donbass, which is still uncontested.
Yeah.
Or still contested, sorry. And so he's proven that he's willing to do it. So I think if you were to hear people say we were surprised, I don't know why we would be. I mean, when you put 250,000 troops on somebody's border and you throw out rhetoric by saying that, hey, this country will not join NATO, I will not stand for it, and I am going to, I'm going to invade this country and stop you. And that does stop the NATO process, because a country cannot join into the NATO accession process if there is a conflict internally or with another power.
I did not know that.
But see, here's the thing too, and this is where, like, I guess nobody can really say what Putin's thinking, but like, it's my understanding like NATO was off the table for Ukraine long ago.
Well, Zelensky, President Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, he said that about a week before they invaded. He said, okay, NATO's off the table.
Yeah.
Well, he invaded anyway.
Yeah, I know.
So
and
that goes back to your original question.
How long do you think they were planning on doing this? Like, ever since they annexed Crimea, was it like, okay, let's get the plans ready?
Look, every country has war plans, right? And they collect dust on the shelf.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're updating them. But yeah, I'm sure they had a plan on the shelf for these sort of things. I think what we have here with Putin is we had what we call a policy strategy mismatch. He set out a policy that he wanted to go accomplish something, but the strategy that his military and the foreign service, the intelligence agency inside of Russia, that they didn't have the means, they didn't have the will to put it together. But to get back to your original question, so part of that is because he didn't want him to join NATO.
Yeah.
The other part was there's an economic interest. They want a sphere of interest. If you want to talk about gas and oil, all right, Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2,
Yeah.
Russia provides a lot of energy to Europe, and they hold that over Europe's head. They coerce Europe with this, and there's a lot coming out of the stands as well, out of the Caucasus region, which come down through Ukraine. And if you recall, I think back in week 2 or week 3 of the war, they attacked some of the pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can then start to direct some of the energy elsewhere through other areas that they better control. So I think there's an economic interest here as well.
Yeah.
Is any of it his wanting to reunify, in your opinion, the former Soviet Union? Is that just like a Russian pipe dream, or like, is that part of this, or is it more like a realistic intention of Ukraine is a strategic place? I don't know.
I thought he dissed the Soviet Union, but was referring to like the original Russian Republic.
No. So if you understand the worldview or the personality of Putin in and of himself, so he was a former KGB officer.
Right.
He was trained up underneath Soviet doctrine. He was a believer. Okay.
But I thought he was in tight with Gorbachev, and like they were like bros. And
didn't Gorbachev, wasn't Putin like mayor of some area? Yeah, I don't know.
It's up in I believe it was up in St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
But when Putin was as a KGB officer stationed I think he was in Germany, he didn't get the post he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get the sexy post. But while he was there, that's when the Soviet Union fell. So everything he knew, everything he trained, everything he believed in was gone. And when he went back, and as a matter of fact, when he was a KGB officer at his station, they were like, should we report what's going on here? And he's like, report to who? 'Cause there's nobody there. The country's now fallen.
Yeah.
And so that really impacted him. I mean, you're either informed or you're captured by your experiences. And I believe Putin was firmly captured by that experience, and that drove him to be who he is today. And so I don't think he went back to the Warsaw Pact or the Soviet Union, but I think he definitely wants to make Russia great again.
Here's another question for you, especially someone coming from like the military intelligence side of things. So I'm going to assume that Putin was under the assumption that this was going to be an easy take for them. Like they were going to steamroll through. How does that happen? Like, was he being fed poor intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, how
Did
do
they
you
just
miss it by that?
Like, how do
So
they
much.
clearly missed the mark there by a lot. And like, how does that happen?
Yeah. So did you guys get an opportunity to watch? So they actually filmed the cabinet meeting that Putin held to get all of his cabinet to come up on video to say we support the special military operation.
I didn't see
No.
that.
Yeah, you guys Google that when you get a chance.
Yeah.
Because you can see on all of their faces how scared they were.
So did they
How they
know?
did- how
Like,
they
did
disagreed.
everyone just know, and did they just were afraid to tell him, like, hey,
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
We're dealing with an autocracy here.
Yeah, it's true, right?
The tyrant. You don't get to say what you want. Look, you can't go over into in front of the Kremlin and start screaming that Putin sucks, because there's going to be a black van that pulls up and puts you in it.
Yeah.
So this
You can
was-
walk down in front of the White House and say something about the current president or previous president or future president, and people are just going to look at you like, all right, well, freedom. You can say what you want.
So basically, in a nutshell, Putin was like, I want to invade Ukraine, and all of his direct.
They're like, it's gonna be
great
easy.
idea. Intelligence is good.
But like obviously, do you think a lot of those people knew, like, hey, this is not going to be as easy as you think it's going to be?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Listen, there are professional military, professional intelligence people within Russia who absolutely are aware of what their capability is and what they were up against. But sometimes you convince yourself that you can still do it. And when it's reinforced by things that happened in 14 in Ukraine, or 2008 in Georgia, or in Syria.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Syria.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Syria was really the last place that they were to effectively use combined arms, where they were able to use aviation, maneuver forces, infantry forces, artillery, and the Russian army is predominantly, they're an artillery or fires force. They like to bomb the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
And ask questions later. That's what you're seeing in Mariupol right now.
Yeah.
That's what you saw in Bucha. But it's not working out. So no, I believe there was a bunch of yes men. I believe there was some hubris going on, and I believe they have some bad strategy. So you combine those three things together, and that's a dangerous recipe.
I've got so many questions.
So many
So
questions.
my first question, and then you go. Were you, like, you personally, when this started unfolding, I don't know, this is what, in February, like, were you surprised or not surprised that they had met so much resistance? Or like, you as a military insider, like, you knew like Ukraine was not going to be easy to take? Like, with your knowledge, like, basically my question is, like, did you think the Russian army was as good as they were touted to be? Or like, were you just like not surprised that this went the way that it went?
If you asked me that question back in 2008 when they went into Georgia,
Be a
I would have
different
said,
answer?
no, I wasn't surprised at all, because they looked pretty good.
Really?
I mean, it was a blitzkrieg. They came in using effective firepower, effective tactics and doctrine. But then I watched them in Crimea and Donbass. I watched them in Syria. They used good combined arms in Syria a bit, but they had free range. They were able to select when and where they wanted to fight. That's not the case in Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's over. He's Ukrainian. He's in the military. He's a career guy, and been keeping in touch with him, and they're just taking it to him.
Yeah.
Really? So
and-
it's that like the Ukrainian, like, it's not media, like the Ukrainians are doing that good of a job.
Yeah. I mean,
good.
look,
Yeah.
the one thing you're not going to get out of either our media or definitely the Russian media, you're not going to get accurate numbers.
Right.
So they sent in about 129 battalion tactical groups. All right. So these are fairly large, brigade minus types, really battalion, if you look at battalion size of a U.S. battalion. And they went in with about 129 of them. I think they've lost about 30 or 33. So they've lost about 30% of their ground forces.
Wow.
Jeez.
Lost about 30% of their army. Right now, they're saying they lost about 20,000 killed.
Russia's saying that.
Yeah.
So it's way more.
And I estimate those numbers are higher. And I think Zelensky came out today and said Ukraine's probably lost about 3,000, with about 10,000 injured.
Mm-hmm.
So Defense has the advantage in warfare.
Yeah.
And it's their home. It's their terrain. They know it. They know what to blow up. They know where to hide. They know what to flood. They know where, especially, I mean, listen, what the hell were the Russians thinking? Why do you attack in the spring when shit's thawing out and you're a predominantly heavy force? Tanks and mud don't go well together. I'm an armor officer. I don't like mud.
Yeah.
You know?
So since you're an armor officer, and this is a question I have, like,
do you want to know how those tanks are getting refilled?
Yeah, like how much logistical support does it take? I don't know, to like support.
I love the logistics questions.
To support, like, I don't know how many tanks are in.
In my mind, you've got like a 30-mile long convoy of tanks. There's got to be some amazing refueling, like whatever, to keep that going.
Right? Don't you have to have like infantry units to support the tanks too? And just like what do you like?
Yes, no, you're onto something. That is the concept. That's what you're supposed to do. However, they're not doing it. You know, listen, they didn't bring gas. They didn't even the tanks and the APCs, the armored personnel carriers, and the trucks and everything else that they brought were shitty.
Yeah,
they're breaking down. Look, their conscripts are not waking up in the morning, doing PT, and then heading over to the motor pool to make sure that their trucks are all good to go to war.
Yeah.
No, they're getting in, they're turning it on. They're like, hey, it's running, let's go. Okay. And oh, by the way, let's not, forget the fact that they weren't told where they were going and what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I read that, like the conscripts, they were like, did they think it was like a training exercise or something?
Yeah.
So I read an article too that said like, and maybe this is clearly biased based on just Russia invading Ukraine, but with like all the anti-tank technology out there, like the days of like armored warfare are numbered when you have
like artillery too, right?
With drones, with air power, with anti-tank technology, like rolling in with a column of tanks against like a modern nation. I guess Ukraine would fall into that, is pretty worthless now.
Like, is that type of warfare done?
I mean, I don't want to say it's not. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm a mounted maneuver warfare, trained person. But I think some of the character of warfare is changing. So how we fight, the technology we use. Listen, I mean, there's a time and a place for, tanks on tanks. Mm-hmm. There's a time and a place for tank, with infantry supported. When you go into an urban area, when you go into cities, you don't just take tanks in because they're going to get shot.
Yeah.
You go in with the infantry first. You clear the area. You call tanks for backup, or you call aviation for backup. You don't just drive in with tanks because we've seen what the Ukrainians can do to the Russians in an urban or in even small villages.
So what is the role of a tank then in like urban warfare?
That's a good question.
Yeah, no. So the role is really to support infantry.
Okay.
So like infantry's going in, like clearing buildings, like that sort of stuff, and the tanks are supporting them. Is that kind of how it's supposed to go?
Yep.
And is that not what they're doing?
I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I don't know.
So they are literally just driving into a town with their tanks, right, wrong, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why they're doing it, but they just drive right in. And listen, what's the main weapon system that the West has been providing to Ukraine?
In-laws, javelins,
anti-tank weapons.
Yeah. What's the British one? The Starstreak. No, that's the anti-aircraft one. This is a great segue to my next question. I used to work for a defense contractor. I am under the impression that the U.S. My specialty was chemical weapons too. And we'll get there. But I'm under the impression that the U.S. Not only is supplying Ukraine with various weapons, etc., but obviously, like, we're utilizing this as a test bed, right? For like our next generation of weapons. Like, is that is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's what we're doing, right?
Contractors just sitting back and like analyzing all the footage.
That's got to be what in some capacity we're doing, right?
Yeah. With the weapons that are already on the street. There's no doubt that the contractors who built those weapons they're getting data.
Like, this is a good testing ground, right?
I don't have any information, specifically.
Yeah.
I don't have direct knowledge, but I gotta guess that they're there.
Yeah.
I gotta guess that they're getting the feedback and they're going to improve their weapons.
Mm-hmm.
look, we don't have to like it.
Yeah.
The last person that wants any war is somebody who's in the military,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
But you have to hope that we're designing the next best thing that can probably save lives and help you win quickly.
So speaking, kind of going that direction too, there's been a bunch of like criticism that's like, we keep us in Europe and other countries keep providing all these aid in various forms, weapons packages, vehicles, all that fun stuff. And there's not really a talk of like peace, for example. It's like, how do we flood as much weapons and money into Ukraine as possible? And then it's like, there's not really much talks of peace or like, what do the Russians want? And like, is this good to keep escalating it? I mean, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, should there be more talks about like, how do you stop this? Or are you more on the, I don't know if you don't have to pick a side, but are you like,
let's just give Ukraine as much as possible.
Give them as much as possible to stop Russia.
So you always got to look for the off ramp. You always got to look for, first off, what does Russia really want? How can we get towards that without sacrificing, our own, from a Ukrainian point of view, right?
Right.
So how do you not sacrifice your sovereignty, your existence? And the problem is the Russians keep changing their political objectives, and the political objectives drive the military objectives. So I think their original political objective was they wanted to just off Zelensky. They're just going to do a decapitation, remove the government, and therefore they're now in control. And that's why they did a thunder run to Kiev. Okay, listen, the North during the Civil War did the same thing. They tried to make a great run to Richmond, and they got their butts handed to them. And they quickly realized that, this is going to be a protracted war. This is going to be a long war. And I think Russia is quickly realizing that. And there's a reason for that. Well, because Ukrainians have something to fight for. For them, it's unlimited.
Right,
they're willing to die for down to the last man, woman, and the little kid. The Russians, they're not. They don't know what they're fighting for. It's Putin doesn't even know what he's fighting for because he's changed the objective so many times. Like, what's their rhetoric now? Oh, it was never about Kiev. It's about the Donbass. It's about the east. We just want to have that area over there. They want the sea. They want the Sea of Azov. That's what they want. And they want to be able to control all of that area because they need a port, right?
Yeah.
And if they're not going to have Odessa, they're not going to have something else. Then they need to control all of that because their only other port is at least on the western side is where.
Is that the one?
It's up in the north.
That's like
right?
it's like frozen, right?
Yeah.
It's like frozen parts of the year. Yeah. I saw that.
And the Turks have closed off the Black Sea.
The Turks.
How big of a deal was the sinking of this Russian like destroyer or battleship that happened like yesterday? Wasn't that like a big deal?
Massive.
Really?
Massive. Yeah. Listen, you can send battalion tactical groups all day, and they can get shot up, and you can deny it, and you can hide it in the media. You can, but a naval ship is a huge presence. It's a huge message. And when you have something like that, which was their flagship, when you lose that, you can't hide that. As much as you want to lie and say, we started a fire.
I know. I saw that. I was like, but clearly that's not how it happened. Yeah.
I mean, come on. So I actually, when I was in the Navy, I was after the fall of the Soviet Union. I was on a flight and we landed on. It was a goodwill tour. So the Russian Navy was still out and about. It was no longer the Soviet Union, but they did a visit to Halifax, Canada, and then down to Boston. And I was on the aircraft that landed on the back of one of their. I think it was one of their destroyers. Yeah. It was. I took a note here. Is Admiral Karlamov. It was one of the destroyers, but one of the cruisers of the same class that was sunk this week was with them. In 1893, off of Cape Cod. And when a nation loses a ship, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
because it sends a message.
So just U.S. Navy, for example, do we have technology to stop cruise missiles from hitting like a U.S. Navy ship?
Is that how the ship went down? Did it go down with the cruise missile?
Yeah, 2 of them.
So So I don't have all the details.
Yeah. I don't know.
I haven't read any of the reports, and if I did, I probably wouldn't tell you. But
That's fair.
but no. So this speculation is that some of the tactics that they use, they overwhelmed the ship's defensive systems with drones.
Oh, okay.
And they were able to get some of their own anti-ship. I think it was a ship or shore to sea launched weapon anti-ship missile that the Ukrainians developed themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
After the loss of Crimea, they realized, oh shit, we got to develop something.
Yeah.
And no. So all ships have defensive measures, right? You've seen them in Hollywood in the movies.
Yeah. Like those
the
mini
Sea
guns
Whiz.
that like shoot the stuff
Sea Whiz.
down.
I mean, these things are massive. Listen, every time I land on the back, when I was in the Navy and I used to land on the back of an FFG class or a Knox class, they had a Sea Whiz right on the back.
Is that what that's called? Is that like the gun thing I'm thinking of?
So
okay.
it has one barrel, and it looks like it's a white cone shape, and they call it Sea Whiz. And I was always afraid that we'd land and somehow there would be a malfunction and that thing would just shred our helicopter.
Do they have rail guns? Are rail guns real?
What is a rail gun? Just shooting a piece of metal?
No, are rail guns real? They're real, right?
Rail guns are developed technology. They're working on that. I hear.
Okay. Do you know what a rail gun is?
Isn't that just shooting?
Watch one of the Transformers movies.
Isn't that just shooting a piece of metal like incredibly fast?
Yeah, really fast through like magnetic rails. They're like
Uses kinetic energy.
Yeah, they're like known to be on ships. I don't think they're a defensive measure more than an offensive measure, but
so that's interesting.
Read Peter Singer's Ghost Fleet.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Good
really
stuff.
Interesting book.
So the speculation is that there was a bunch of drones that like overwhelmed the ship's radar or something, and then potentially they were able to sneak some missiles in that way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I just saw it. It was like what, yesterday, and I was like, okay, yeah, that I didn't realize at the time that's like a big deal.
I heard they evacuated it and then they were towing it and then it potentially.
I did see the thing Russia was saying like some fire broke
listen,
out or something.
Even though I was an aviation guy, when you go out to sea, you learn how to control water damage because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You gotta fight fires.
Yeah.
You gotta stop leaks. And I can't imagine that. Look, the Navy has conscripts too. I can't imagine that they probably weren't prepared for this. Now that ship was involved in the Syria operation. I think it was involved in the 2014 Crimea crisis, but I gotta imagine that they were probably hit. They probably evacuated. They didn't get the leaks underway, and they started to tow it with it still leaking.
Yeah.
And once water starts to get in, and you start to get over bulkheads and such, and compartments start to fill up, it's just physics. Okay, it's gonna sink.
Does Russia have like a notably good navy? Are they known as a good naval power?
They really were. I mean, traditionally, look, when you look at certain nations, certain things define what sort of military power they're going to be. You look at the United Kingdom, an island nation.
Yeah.
They're going to be a damn good navy, right?
Yep.
Because they have to be.
Yep.
They don't have a lot of land space, and they got to keep all the invaders out. But if you're living on a very large continent, like you're the Mongols or you're Russians or you're Germans who don't have a lot of seaports, you're probably going to have a pretty good land force. So if you look historically, the Germans had an okay navy. They experimented. Well, I won't say experimented because they were pretty damn good with the U-boats.
The U-boats, yeah.
I mean, the Battle of the Atlantic was the longest campaign throughout World War II, and they were pretty good at it until we figured some other stuff out. But the United States and Russia and China, we have the ability to be both.
Yeah.
We can be both a continental army or a continental power, but we can also be a maritime power. And the Soviet Union had a massive navy. And as somebody who was in the Navy, trained to fight and sink Soviet submarines, it was fun. I mean, there were two times when I got to prosecute, and when I say prosecute, I got to identify, track, and maintain contact with Soviet submarines.
Do they have a lot of subs?
They used to.
Okay.
They're rebuilding their subforce now. I wouldn't say it's probably modernized and up to date, but but they do have a significant submarine force.
Are our subs over there?
Oh, sure. I would hope so.
They got to be, right?
Well, the tough thing about submarines is you never know.
Okay, I love
Right?
that.
They leave port, they sink, and you're like, where'd they go?
Did you serve on a sub?
No. So I was in a anti-submarine warfare helicopter off of the back of fast frigates, FFGs, and these boats were very. We don't have them in the Navy. The Navy's talking about bringing them back.
Yeah.
But these things are like Corvettes.
Okay.
I mean, they're just fast.
Like super
and they're
fast.
Fun. Yeah. And they could take 2 helicopters, and the 2 helicopters go out and prosecute. Their mission. Our mission when I was in was we did anti-ship targeting and surveillance, and we did anti-submarine warfare. Mostly we did anti-submarine warfare. And one time we were able to find a Soviet ballistic submarine off the coast of Cape Cod. And but it was a boomer. What they call the big boys, the Typhoons, and he wanted to be seen.
Okay.
If he didn't want to be seen, you'd never know he was there. So sometimes they go out and do that. They will show you where they are, but it's not. Don't worry about them. Worry about the one that you don't know where they are.
Is that common to have Russian submarines like that close to the coasts of the U.S.?
Listen, man. Back during the Cold War, we played a lot of games with one another, and absolutely, yeah,
that's terrifying.
When you hear in the news nowadays about like, Soviet, a Russian plane flew next, near Alaska, and we scrambled.
Yeah.
Dude, during the Cold War, that shit happened like multiple times.
Is that them just screwing with us when they do that?
People screw.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
do we do that to them at least?
Yeah, come on.
All the time. Okay. Why not? Listen, when you're out at sea for a long time, you're bored. You got to figure shit out. So,
good.
Here's a little sea story, right? So when we were out at sea, we were up in the North Atlantic, and there was the Soviets used to send out intelligence boats, and they would kind of mirror you, and they'd follow you and stuff like that. And so we would go out on the back of the flight deck on the fantail. It's a very small flight deck.
Yeah.
But we decided one day we're gonna mess with these guys. So we went out. We took cardboard that we had stapled tinfoil to, and we had built these crazy things on the back of the boat. And all of a sudden you see that intelligence boat come closer and closer and closer. Because he was just being some, whatever. So it's fun.
That's hilarious, by the way.
So hold on. The potential sinking of this ship in Ukraine does that ship actually have like a lot of military capabilities, or is it just more of a message?
It's a good question.
Does the ship have capability?
Yeah, is it from a military strategy standpoint a big deal, or is it more like just like a good signal that Ukraine has sunk a Russian ship, and the Russian ship didn't really matter?
From a French perspective, this is a massive win for 2 reasons. One, they showed that they had the tactics and capability to do it, and they showed Russian weakness. Number 2, it's a huge strategic communication message back to Russia and the international community. Now, the blowback of number 2 is that Russia
shelled Kyiv.
Is now like, hey, you want to play games? All right, now we're going to play games.
Yeah.
And I think it was reported in the news today that Russia bombed the missile factory where they suspected, where Russia suspects that they made those anti-ship missiles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they took out their capability.
What is... how much do you know? How good is Ukraine's air force, air defense? I'm under the impression that Ukraine's got nothing, and that Russia is closed the skies. Is that true?
No. One of the things that we've been very surprised about is the lack of Russian air support.
Really?
And what air support they did bring in, whether or not it was fixed wing, from a fighter perspective, or a ground support perspective, or rotary wing helicopters.
Yeah.
They've been getting shot out of the sky left and right. And I think I'm not sure if they were just
Star
waiting.
Streaks. The British Star Streaks.
I'm not sure if they were waiting to gain control of the ground to eliminate air defenses, or if they just aren't prepared.
So,
I think it's the latter. I just don't think they're ready for prime time.
Is the smarter thing to do? Like, I feel like what the U.S. has done in like previous like wars or whatever is take the skies first, and then move the ground in. Is that
the typical tactic?
For the U.S.?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
control the skies first.
If I don't know if this would ever happen, but if NATO got in and enforced like a no-fly zone, which I don't know if that would ever happen, but how detrimental would that be to like the current Russian military offensive?
It doesn't sound like it would be much at all if they don't have air support.
Right. Well, that's what Zelensky was asking for like a few weeks ago, was like close the skies. But I don't know.
Here's the deal. So this is about posturing, and it's about cost benefit analysis. It's about risk. So you guys deal in some of that stuff in your civilian careers, right? You kind of look at that sort of stuff. Putin was very smart in the beginning of all this when he threw out the rhetoric about nukes. Yeah. Because and I had a conversation as an Army strategist, because this is what we do. I mean, this is what we analyze this shit. We're a bunch of nerds.
That's pretty cool.
So I pitched a conversation to some of my community, and I said, wait a minute. I said, we were able to do it in other conflicts where we said, screw you, we're going to come in anyway.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing it with Russia? And they all came back and said, it's a nuke issue. And I was like, listen, do you really think that Putin is going to drop a nuke, whether or not it's going to be on a European city, American city, or if he's going to use a tactical, meaning a small, kiloton nuke on the tactical battlefield? I don't think he's going to, but I'm just a colonel, and the folks over at the National Security Council and the Pentagon, who are much higher ranked than me, they're not willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
Now, I don't say that in the pejorative, I don't say that pejorative against them, because they're much smarter than I am. They have more information than I am. But when Putin threw that out there, he was very smart, because he was reminding the international community that I have nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to use them. When you create something like a no-fly zone, okay, you better be prepared to defend it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now you're talking about escalation.
Yep.
And if you go in, all right, let's take this back a notch. In Syria, Russia's in Syria, right? And they cross over into Turkey. What did Turkey do?
I don't know.
You're gonna tell us.
Air-to-air combat.
Okay.
Turkey jets shot down a Russian jet.
Was that the last time?
I think it was in 2015.
Was that the last time that there was like air-to-air combat before this?
Well, no, there's been lots of air-to-air combat. Are you talking like a dogfight with guns or missiles or what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, there's been plenty of missile shoots.
Dang. See, that was another thing that we were misled on. It's like
a lot of my friends were like, "We're still dogfighting." I'm like, "Yeah, I think so."
Well, I mean, listen, a bunch of my buddies are, they're jet jockeys. First of all, once you get
I've
past
never heard that term.
Once you get past
Jet jockey. I'm calling Spacgyver that now.
How do you know somebody's a fighter pilot? They're gonna tell you that one second.
Yeah.
It's funny.
But no. So listen, a dogfight is a dogfight, and the changing technology has just now taken us from biplanes from World War I, doing dogfights with guns, to now there's a greater separation, with missiles. It's still a dogfight. You're still up in the air.
Right.
And my hat's off to them, because, dude, they strap on this jet that they can go, multiple Machs and just turn and burn and make decisions like that.
Yeah.
So, but no. So Turkey shot down a Russian jet. I think it was either an Su-29 or an Su-30. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And their relations are not all that bad. They're kind of they're frenemies, right? They're just friends, sometimes enemies, sometimes friends, friends with benefits. I don't know. But, they afterwards, Putin said to Erdogan, "Hey, we got a problem here, dude."
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, what did Turkey do? Turkey bought the S-400 Russian air defense system, multiple billions of dollars. And you know what that did?
What did that do?
That cut out the F-35 potential buy.
Okay.
Yeah, we had CASA sanctions where we had to go in and say, all right, Turkey, you've now violated U.S. law. We can no longer sell certain technology and certain arms to you because you're trading or you're buying military equipment from one of our enemies. So I think that was a calculated move by Putin. I think it was sort of a multi-billion-dollar apology from Turkey over
Yeah, I
to
was just
Russia
gonna
for
say,
shooting down their jet.
did they do that
Yeah.
to just make up for shooting down the jet?
Andy's
Yeah, I
Andy's
think they did.
Wikipediaing this right now.
That thing's just sitting it's sitting at an airport somewhere right now. They've turned it on, but it's not operational. So I'm not sure Turkey's going to figure out how to try and get out of this one. But then, as you mentioned earlier, Turkey shut down the straits, right? And Turkey's been kind of cooperative. Turkey actually wanted to broker a peace deal before this thing even got out of control, and then once it kicked off, Turkey held talks.
Yeah, and I know
Turkey wasn't in charge; they just were the landlord for the talks.
And I know the Ukrainians are using those Turkish drones that everybody keeps talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, I have so many questions.
Keep going.
How much better? So one thing I look at this conflict and I look what's going on.
We're making progress.
Perfect. Good. And one thing I talk to my friends about, how much better, and you're a biased source for this, which is totally fine, but how much, and I love the term war machine. I would use that. How much better is the U.S. war machine than any of these countries, than like Russia? So one thing that's been surprising is we've discussed is this whole conflict is kind of exposing that Russia is not like the great, massive war machine we're brought up for them to believe. How much better is the U.S. than the rest of these countries? Is it as good as I think it is?
It's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
it's pretty damn good. Yeah. But look, let's not be arrogant.
No, I mean from like a purely like strategic, technological, from like, let's just like, what are the facts,
So I think some of the Western European countries are great. Look, the Swedes, the Norwegians, even the Swiss do pretty good. But the Brits, the French, they're very good at what they do. I mean, if you remember that the submarine deal that just went south with Australia.
Yeah.
The French are pretty goddamn good at submarines. They take too long, which is why Australia's like, screw you. I'm going to go with the guy that can build me something. Yeah. And South America, they do well. Great technology. Russia, they don't do the investment in their R&D. China, they just steal R&D.
Yeah.
They steal.
Is China number
technology.
2? Is China number 2?
Number 2 in what sense?
Like just global war capability. Like who's the
our global military technology?
Yeah, like who's the if the U.S. is number 1, who's number 2?
Man, that's a good one.
Or like it could be a tie. Who's?
Well, the answer that everybody says for China right now.
I mean, everyone. Like I think China.
No, everyone's like,
but I don't know.
Everyone's like, we don't know what China has.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of unknowns out there. But listen, what have we been focusing on for the past couple of years? China.
Yeah.
Martian.
Yep.
But guess what happened? Russia invaded
China.
Europe. And where have we seen a lot of warfare throughout the 20th and 19th and 18th century?
Yeah, it's been Europe. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I met with one of my classes. We brought in a speaker. I won't give you a name, but he said, I've been spending a lot of time trying to convince people not to make Russia 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
Because everybody's like, oh, it's Russia. They're so big, they're so powerful, and the reality is they're not, and we're seing that in Ukraine.
Yeah,
definitely.
Now that we're seeing their failures, their flaws, their inability to support logistically, whatever. Now we're going to have to convince people that they're not 2 inches tall.
Yeah.
So because they're still a nuclear power.
Yeah.
They are doing modernization of their nuclear force. They're doing a modernization of their naval capability that we talked about earlier. Their ground forces, now that they've lost a third of it, they're going to have to rebuild. Yeah.
Would we care about Russia at all if they didn't have nukes?
My personal opinion?
Yeah.
No. And I've said it. I'm like, come on.
I mean, I've said it. They got a GDP the size of Texas. Like,
yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, that's a great point, man. They don't have a lot to invest.
Right.
And pretty much the only thing they have going for them is energy. They can export energy. Other than that, they're just hanging out.
Do you think that the Russia invading Ukraine has implications on China's trying to get Taiwan?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
You said that real fast.
Yeah. No, it's because I've had a debate a lot about it in my career field. Yeah.
I
mean, that's the easy answer, right?
Yeah.
We like to attribute similar actions, and
correct. Yes.
Yeah. This is here's the thing. Everybody is like, oh, we need to go protect Ukraine. Now, from a values-based interest, I agree with that. If we're going to claim to be, the shining hill on the top of the shining house on the top of the hill, and if we're going to claim to be the protector of the innocent, we're freer of the oppressed, then we probably ought to do something.
Yeah.
But we're not doing a lot. However, Taiwan is different, right? We are treaty bound, not treaty bound, but we do have agreements that we're going to protect. Yeah. And we do have a greater interest by both our values base, but also our security and prosperity. There's a huge economic interest. Yeah. The amount of trade that goes through the South China Sea
it's huge.
Is massive.
Yeah.
Massive. Now, people will say China and the U.S. will never go to war against one another because we're such huge trading. We rely on one another. Yeah, that's an uninformed statement, sure. But look at what happened between the powers in World War I. We were huge trading partners. Right? Some were democracies, some were not.
Yeah.
We still war against one another.
Yeah.
So it all depends on why you want to go to war. And goes back to your earlier question about why is Putin doing this. I mean, I'll get geeky in my career field.
Good.
If you study the Peloponnesian War, you understand Thucydides, right?
I don't even know what that is.
Peloponnesian War?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a famous one.
I don't know.
So listen, mark it down, put it on your reading list, and you could, throw it up while you're sitting there in the Ohio winter running on your treadmill in the basement. Or you can listen to a podcast.
You follow my Strava.
Yeah, you got to follow some Strava. We're running a lot.
No, the landmark Thucydides. I think I might have a copy over
this
here
is like the classics.
I run on my treadmill in the basement all the time.
He's getting into the classics.
He's intelligence.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but there's a bumper sticker, right, out of this theorist, and that is countries go to war for 3 reasons: fear, honor, and interest. Okay? It's either you fear that somebody else is going to surpass you in power or attack you, so you're going to go to war. All right? And that's what happened during the Peloponnesian War. All right? The Athenians against the Spartans, right? There was a fear and there was action on that. The next is fear, honor. Okay? Honor, Spartans. You are the warriors. How dare these Athenians, raise up and question our ability to, control everything? Fear, honor, and interest. And then what are your interests out there? What is it? Is it economic interest? It all depends. So I think we have a greater interest. I think we have some honor with regard to Taiwan.
Good response. Here's a question for you, and I don't want to get political with this, but how would you personally judge the U.S.'s response to the conflict in Ukraine? Do you think we've done a good job? What do you think we could have done better? What do you think? Gotta ask.
No, that's a fair question. And again, just remember the caveat.
Yeah.
I am not criticizing my commander in chief, the president.
Maybe we don't want to put him in
by
there.
any means.
And if you can, if you're like, you don't have to answer this question.
Listen. From a strategist point of view, I think we could have done more.
Like in terms of giving them more.
There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk at that.
Yeah.
Do you want to be sucked into a war?
Right.
Listen. I spent almost 4 years living in Sarajevo. I was working at the U.S. Embassy in Bosnia, and my office was literally 100 yards from the spot that Franz Ferdinand was shot.
Oh no shit!
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so every day I'd walk across the bridge. It was called the Franz Ferdinand.
Yes. World War I started here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Gallup Princip, the Black Hand part of, he was a Serb apparently, allegedly. No offense to any Serbs out there.
Wait, is it like, I thought he was a Serb. Is it like conflicted that he was not Serbian?
Well, he didn't. My point is that he didn't commit it because he was a Serb.
Oh, okay, fair. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Fair.
So I didn't want to attribute to
Yeah.
the later conflict that happened during the Balkan War.
Okay.
But no. So I mean, so many things at the start of that. Could we have done more in the very beginning? Yeah, I think we could have.
Like, given Ukraine more, like, do you think that's a better thing? And like, and you don't have to go into specifics, but like, are there things we could give them high level that we're not giving them?
Well, so if we understood Putin correctly, in the very beginning, his big concern was don't bring Ukraine into NATO.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the possibility of before any of this got out of control, bringing Ukraine into NATO secretly and very quickly before
yeah,
and then coming back, raising the stakes and saying they are now a NATO member. If you attack, it will be in Article 5 and you will have to fight all of NATO.
Yeah.
Now we're past that, so we can't really do that anymore. But just go, it's a what if,
Yeah.
What would have happened had we done that early on? I don't know.
How do you realistically see this ending, and how long? Like, are we in a years long thing here?
Last week, it's so funny you asked that, because last week, I was thinking that we were going to get into a nasty knockdown, drag out battle in the East that's going to be protracted.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I mean, as much as the Russians want to deny whatever's going on, the fact that the bulk of your force came up from the north and the northwest to try to take Kiev, and they got mired, whatever, bad logistics or good Ukrainian resistance. I think it's mostly the latter. And then they all of a sudden stopped. And this is what the Russians do, right? They take a try, it doesn't work, and they're like, tactical pause, time out.
Yeah.
And then they regroup, they go back to headquarters, and they're like, all right, fuck, we messed that one up. What do we do? Well, why don't we try this? And then they go do that. And that didn't work. So they're like, all right, well, let's try it again. And now they're like, they've changed their rhetoric. It's always been about the East. Well, if it's always been about the East, why the fuck did you send all these troops in the West?
Is that how this is?
Send them over here in the East in the first place.
Is this how this is going to end? Like Ukraine gives them the Donbass area?
So my broader point was, if you asked me a week ago, I thought it was just going to be a protracted war in the East. Now that they've sunk their ship, I think two things. One, the Russians could potentially get really, really ugly, like attacking that missile factory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Mariupol is done.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think the mayor of Mariupol said today or yesterday, he's like, my city is no more.
Yeah.
It's complete.
It's like destroyed.
Demolished.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that you want to do as an invader. You have a choice. You can either go destroy everything and annihilate everyone, and then you have nothing left. Or if you want the infrastructure, because you actually want to keep that city or that region or whatever, then preserve it a bit.
Yeah.
They've clearly they don't want to do that. Now, that is either because they intended to destroy it in the very beginning, or they just don't know what they're doing and they got scared and they just decided to level everything. But now that they've sunk the ship, I think we're seeing a turn in the Ukrainians have demonstrated the will to win. They've demonstrated the capability to win. They don't have a shortage of manpower. They've only lost about 3,000 people. And I'm quoting Michael Kaufman, who he's a Russian analyst down here. He's on War of the Rocks all the time. If you guys don't listen to that, I highly recommend War on the Rocks.
War on the Rocks. Okay.
Yeah, they probably, you guys would relate to them because they talk about the subject that they're doing exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Over this.
Rocks. Got it. Like it.
Yeah, no, so you guys would love these guys. So Ryan Evans, who owns War on the Rocks, has been doing this series with Michael Kaufman, who is a Russian analyst. He's Ukrainian born. So take that context or biased into play. But so they've been having this great discussion. And listen, Michael said that, there's not a shortage of manpower in Ukraine. They have a shortage of weapons, kit, everything else.
Yeah.
Right now, Russia's problem is they've got a shortage of manpower because
Yeah.
they were their conscripts that they have. They were up for their enlistments were going to end in this month. Now,
But do
Putin-
they have another like wave coming
Or
in?
couldn't they just extend that?
Yeah, here's what happens. They'll draft a new set of conscripts and they'll release the old set. If they decide not to release it, it's called stop loss. We do it in the U.S. Army all the time. When a whole bunch of if we're short in a certain career specialty, like a bunch of tankers, we're like, hey, we're not gonna honor your commitment. We're gonna keep you another year. And they're
Okay.
like, well, shit, you can't do that. And we're like, yeah, actually, you signed a contract. So read anybody that's going to join the military, read the dotted line. But I think Putin changed his mind. He let the conscripts go. So they're bringing in new conscripts. But here's the deal, man. You know how much shit they have lost in this battle so far? Like I said earlier, it's not just a third of their ground force. It's a third of their equipment. And we're talking tanks, artillery pieces, helicopters, armor personnel carriers, logistics trucks, which they didn't, as you pointed out earlier, they didn't have enough of. So yeah, it's not pretty.
So is like from an equipment perspective, the types of equipment that they invaded Ukraine with, is that like the best of the best? That's a good question. The Russian military has, that's the most advanced like weapons and technology that they have.
They led with it, yeah. Yeah,
Really?
some of their forces.
I was Googling those Switchblade drones.
I know. Those are pretty cool.
Those are pretty bad. I mean,
they have,
I don't want to glorify. I
Yeah.
don't want to glorify death and destruction, but those Switchblade drones we've given them more of, like that's pretty ingenious.
I just learned that they had like different types of warheads for them too.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Where did the U.S. get all these like Soviet era helicopters that were given to Ukraine right now?
We're doing that?
Yeah, it's part of the new weapons package. Like how do we get that stuff? Would we have bought that off of like Russia way back when? Or
listen, a lot of equipment comes from friends and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
That are former. Listen, everybody buys everybody's military equipment, right?
Mhm.
They totally do. I mean, it's just it's a free market economy.
Yeah.
So, and if you recall, Poland offered up a bunch of fighter jets. early,
MiGs,
and called the Pentagon and said, hey, I want to offer up a whole bunch of MiGs. We'll send them over to Ramstein, and you guys can, give them to the Ukrainians. You can either send them to Ukraine or you can keep them wherever you want to keep them. And we immediately said, no way. Because that's dangerous.
Well,
it's about it goes back to the no-fly zone, right?
Yeah.
It's about escalation. We initially had said we're not going to. We tried to conceal a lot of what we were doing, with javelins and that sort of thing. And then Jake Sullivan, did you guys see the 60 Minutes piece this past Sunday?
I did.
I saw clips from it, but
that was really nice, right?
Yeah.
Remember what he said, that the reporter, I can't remember the reporter's name.
Who was that?
But he said, these guys are pretty much trained by the California National Guard.
Yeah.
No, they're trained by a lot of other folks too.
Well, I also,
but no, California has a partnership program.
Yeah, I learned about this.
Yeah.
That different
Matter of fact,
national
I was
guards.
at a dinner. I was at a dinner last night for honoring a bunch of Muslim countries, because we're in Ramadan right now.
Yeah.
So we're honoring a bunch of Muslim countries from the state partnership program. We had an iftar dinner. It was great.
That's
good
pretty
partnerships.
cool.
And that program actually started after the fall of the Soviet Union, because you had Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, which were very, important countries, but they didn't have infrastructure. They didn't know how to, run a country, right? Because the Soviets ran everything. And as soon as the Soviets fell, they walked away.
Yeah.
And so we quickly were like, the U.S. and the West were like, we ought to help them out. And everybody's like, send active army and everybody else in. It's like, well, that's a little in your face to the Soviets or former Soviets. And they're like, well, why don't we use the National Guard? And it turned out, so now there's like 80 plus partnerships across the world.
Is there, do you think, like, in terms of U.S. involvement in the current conflict, like, do we have like CIA guys?
Yeah.
over
So
there?
I was just gonna say, I appreciate the transparency around like what we are providing to Ukraine, but I'm also not stupid enough to believe that there's probably
Like, we probably have some ground. Like, we got some CIA dudes over there, right? Right?
I'm sure.
I would think. I don't know. You don't have to answer that.
I don't know.
There's something I want to ask him about that's no, it's not related to Ukraine. So we can, if you have any more Ukraine questions.
No, I just like, it's good hearing a perspective about somebody a little bit more in the know, because like, I don't know what to trust about like what we see.
Yeah. What's
here.
a good news source for this stuff?
Well, there's multiple. So actually CNN is doing a pretty good job. You know, they got some folks.
That's a very leftist statement of you. I'm joking.
You know.
I'm joking. No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I have a buddy whose wife works there. So here's my suggestion: go to a bunch of different news sources from different countries,
like aggregate
and then you make your own decision.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, because if you read one or the other, and listen, this week I was teaching a class all about information warfare and how the Russians and the Chinese, how they're manipulating things when they're not a spot, using AI, what have you. And, I mean, the Chinese have been putting out a story that Russia invaded Ukraine because of the U.S. It's like,
amazing.
All right, well, that's not believable whatsoever.
China. Okay, there's something I wanted to talk to him about.
Elon Musk?
Nope.
Twitter?
Nope.
Okay.
I almost warned you before we went live, and I forgot to. But I legitimately want your thoughts on the UFO thing.
Ooh.
And I want them like
not Bigfoot. You don't know
No, because the Pentagon, the U.S. military for the last several years has admitted that UFOs are a real thing.
Longer than that.
Well, yeah, but it's been in the mainstream. 2017.
No, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And then there was some more stuff they admitted. There was some more stuff that was, I don't know. I don't think declassified is the correct term, but there was some more stuff came out this like week or two ago about it. I'm not trying to make you sound like a kook or anything like that.
But wait, before you ask your question, I want to ask you something. What are you guys drinking?
We're drinking Moscow Mules. That's very Russian of us, by the way.
Because you guys haven't recharged at all.
No. I'll be very honest with you.
There was strategy.
We poured insanely strong drinks prior to this because we're like, I don't want to be refilling during this.
Yeah.
There was a discussion.
I think I mentioned to you in our email exchange that I called in during the 5-hour.
Yes.
Was Bryce on during your 5 hour?
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I called in because I had the moose story from Vermont.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I was skiing down.
Yeah.
And a moose came by, and it was full smokes. But so hey, my hat's off to you guys. Well done on your podcast. First of all, you're a great success. But my hat's off to you for that 5-hour marathon. That was awesome.
Hey man,
that was fueled by
during
alcohol.
COVID, you really made a
lot of
good
booze.
My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Don't worry about it, honey."
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
No, oh man, we were
before this, literally upstairs, we poured like very, very strong drinks because I was like, Andy, we're not stepping away from this.
But we weren't drinking Moscow Mules. We were drinking Kentucky Mules.
We were drinking, they were Kentucky Mules, which is a Moscow Mule with bourbon instead of tequila.
Which bourbon are you drinking?
We were literally drinking my batch of Maker's Mark that we dipped ourselves.
The one you got from the distillery.
It's a good mixing. We don't like to mix really nice bourbon with things like ginger beer. So I was like, we got the shill.
I've started to go to Scotch and rye because I just found the bourbon.
Look at him dodging the UFO question.
No, I'm going to come back.
I'm totally joking.
No, I was
totally joking.
I was just having a conversation about how much I like rye.
Yeah, it's good. I like the sweetness. Oh, that's wheat. What's the sweet one? That's rye, right?
No. Bourbon's very, very sugary.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of stopped drinking it, because I would drink it and I would have such a massive hangover.
Yeah.
But I drink really good Scotch, or I drink a really nice rye.
What's your really nice rye?
Really bad, yeah.
What's your nice rye?
So I like a 12-year Whistle Pig.
Oh, we don't drink enough Whistle Pig.
You can readily get Whistle Pig.
I know you can get Whistle Pig here, but we don't, and they make good things.
So I went out the other night. It's my birthday the other week, and my wife took me out to dinner.
Happy birthday!
Thanks, buddy. So I go to the bar. We sit down. We go to this really great French bistro, and it's completely empty. It's a Monday night, so whatever. And I was like, honey, I'm just going to walk over to the bar to see what they have, because they never have a proper list. So I walk over and I'm looking and I say, hey, what do you got up there? And he's like, I got, Macallan 18, Macallan 12. I was like, what are you charging for a glass of, Macallan 18? He's like, oh, that'll be $25. And I was like, I've got 2 bottles at home. Screw that. I'm not going to do that. So I go to the table and I'm like, I'll have let me have a whistle pig, neat. Brings it back. I get the bill. Charged me $35.
Ooh.
Because he gave me the 12-year and not the 10-year. I was like,
$35.
This is I have, whenever I go out and I drink whiskey at like a restaurant, I drink the cheapest stuff that they got, because their top shelf stuff, like if they had an Eagle Rare or some type of Weller, they're charging like $25 a pour.
Tell you what, man.
I'm like, no.
Las Vegas at Wolfgang Puck Steakhouse, McKenna 10, $14.
That's pretty good.
well,
Amazing
yeah.
for Vegas.
Do you know Winking Lizard in Columbus has Blanton's for $8 a pour?
What?
Yeah.
Can I just buy 20 pours? Give me the bottle?
Yeah.
So in Virginia, I don't know about
You can
guys,
get Blanton's in Virginia,
it's very
right?
hard to get. No, it's very hard to get Blanton's.
Oh.
It's very hard to get Pappy. Matter of
it's
fact, I was just
impossible.
in this month's lottery for Pappy Van Winkle and both bottles, and I didn't win. I never win.
I got the rip. I got the old rip. You can't see it. I got the rip 10-year. It's as good as advertised, man. It's so. Have you ever had any of those?
No, never. I've had Blanton's.
Okay.
I played poker with a bunch of friends, and one night this guy showed up with he actually had a bunch of Blanton's, and he showed up with an entire bottle and just started like pouring it.
Blanton's is good.
Looking at him like,
Blanton's is good.
We can get Blanton's for $55.
Well, I mean,
when you find it.
When you can find it here, you get it for MSRP, which is like $49.99 or like $52. But Blanton's is good. But the Pappy, and I've got the Rip, which is the lowest tier of the Pappy. That stuff's as good as advertised. I mean, I wouldn't spend $1,000 on a bottle, but like, it's just so smooth. Yeah. I don't know how it's the limestone water. I don't know how they do it.
So you guys haven't dove into the Scotch.
No.
So what's interesting,
that's the next. That's the logical evolution here.
I think he's about to be a converted.
No. It's like a couple of years ago. I was at a work happy hour, and they ordered Macallan 12, and that was my first time drinking like a non-smoky Scotch, and it was excellent.
We should do a Scotch next time.
And Macallan, am I right in saying Macallan 12 is pretty readily available?
So a buddy of mine, he was my previous boss, and he just came back from England. And every time they go out and fly, he's a strike Google guy, and they get back and fly, and they, listen, the Brits do it right. As soon as you land, you go right into the bar, the squadron bar, and the standard is Macallan 12.
Okay.
Everything is measured off Macallan 12. You either elevate off of it,
okay,
or you auger into the ground. And Macallan 12 is a standard. It's just a great drink. And so Lagavulin 16, everybody says that, which is my drink of choice. My bourbon of choice is Woodford.
Mm-hmm.
Woodford's good.
I love Woodford. And so Sea Story, I'm down in Bermuda a couple years ago because of what was it, Zika? Yeah. So my wife is she's pregnant with our second, and we're like she's like, I want to take a damn vacation. We couldn't go anywhere, so the one place where Zika wasn't happened was Bermuda. Yeah, so we go to Bermuda. We're having a great dinner one night, and we've got the younger kid. I don't remember how old he was at the time, but we're having a good dinner. We finish, and I order a double. Give me a double of Woodford. Drink it down. We're just enjoying because we're walking back to the hotel across the street and stuff. And the guy behind me, I hear this American voice, big Southern deep accent. He goes, "How'd you like that?" I was like, "It's good. It's my drink of choice." I said, "You like it?" And he goes, "I'm Woodford's only corn grower."
No shit.
So he was the only supplier for Woodford, and of course you got to imagine this guy's making bank.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him like, you gonna buy me another?
Wow, with how big Woodford is.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty crazy.
He's in Bermuda. Yeah, of course he's in Bermuda, hanging out. Super nice place. That's funny.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, so Lagavulin 16, everyone says it's really, really peaty. I don't think so. I think it's so smooth. It smells peaty, but when you taste it, rolls right off the tongue.
I'll get a bottle.
Scotch live
Yeah,
stream.
we'll start.
Just see us
No. That's the smoky Scotch. I can't. I'm not there yet. I'm not. I tried. My brother-in-law gave me some Lefroy, and it was rough.
Oh yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, Lefroy is nasty.
Yeah, it hurt.
So, are UFOs real?
All right, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that, and then I do want to ask you a question, if I can.
Okay.
All right, so let's go to the UFOs. I have no knowledge whatsoever, but I agree with you, and I have lots of friends who are flyers.
Okay.
Whether or not they are, fighter pilots or strategic flyers in the nuke force who are up in the air for a long, long time, or logistic pilots flying C-17, C-5s, or whatever. And these guys are up forever.
Yeah.
And some of them are reserves who are also airline pilots flying,
When you say like the nuke force does that mean like we got planes that are just up there circling?
We don't like we used to back in the day. Like when my father was in the Air Force, he was out at Minot Air Force Base, big B-52 Strategic Air Command.
Yeah.
And these guys, the old doctrine was we will have planes in the air 24/7.
Okay. That makes sense given the climate of the time. Okay.
Yeah. So, but no, all of my friends, whether or not commercial or military pilots who have been up there, we've had great conversations about this. Some sober, some not so sober.
Yeah.
And, but a lot of them have said, yeah, they've seen some weird shit. They've
like
seen
people
some really
personally.
Yeah. And then you've seen the footage, right?
Yeah.
Footage that DOD has released. Now, look, you talk about the Bigfoot stuff. I think one just came out again, right?
Yeah,
Recently,
I did see something. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to say like it's aliens. Like I'm not saying that.
No. I'm not making that connection.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's conspiracy out there, and sometimes there are assholes who create video footage, fake video footage that just tries to support the conspiracy theory.
Right.
But there are actual. I mean, listen. You can't get around when you have a nose camera off a jet. You can't get around off cell phone footage that somebody's on an airplane is like, hey, that shit was weird that we just saw.
Yeah.
And look, to think that we're the only ones out here in this vast universe, well, that's kind of arrogant.
It's true. If, let's say it's not aliens. Let's take aliens off the table. What do you think this shit is? Is it China? Is it another country? Is it?
Well, so go back to the Skunk Works program.
Yeah, like is it us? And it's just really crazy stuff.
Area 51.
Yeah.
We're constantly testing shit.
Right.
So sometimes you see things that you just don't understand. Go back to the railgun issue. Go back to
railguns. He's saying
railguns
exist.
What we're dealing with right now over the past couple of years with the guys. What was it down in Cuba and somewhere else? The U.S. diplomats who were having problems.
Oh, yeah.
Wait. I thought it was crickets.
It's like the sound, right?
I thought it's crickets.
No. So it's absolutely out in the media that the Russians have been testing, behavioral modification.
I forgot about this.
Yeah. I thought it was disproven.
Do you do not talk about specifics, but in your role in the military, does this sort of stuff ever come up?
UFOs?
Yeah. Or the stuff in Cuba, or like, does any like weird paranormal?
Cuba thing does. No, Cuba thing definitely does. One of my buddies just got back from overseas, and he got back, and he said, I said, are you back for a job reason? He's like partly, and I was like, I could tell something was going on. I was like, what's the other part? And he goes, health reasons. I was like, oh, dude, you're all right. And he goes, well, I was over there and I lost my hearing.
Oh shit!
Having great headaches and everything else, and I was like, he's like, I've been a medical, and he's no longer a government employee or anything like that. He's a dependent of a government employee, and he's like, yeah, no, so I think I was targeted, and I'm all fucked up now. Like his hearing has started to come back in one ear, and it hasn't come back in the other.
What is the like? I all I've heard is there's like sounds being assaulting people in Cuba. Is it Russia? Do we think it's that?
Well,
do we know what it is? We don't know what it is, right?
They're trying to say it's a bunch of crickets.
Well, Clearly not.
But,
These dudes are
wait,
losing
when
their
you say
hearing.
they're trying to say it's a bunch of crickets. Who are they?
Some media sources and some
And crickets
government sources.
Crickets ain't.
U.S. government or Russian government?
I think it was U.S.
Are
government.
you into the Russian propaganda, Andy?
No.
Are you watching RT? You're watching RT or Sputnik, aren't you?
No.
This has been going on for a while too, right?
Yeah.
The thing in Cuba. Yeah.
No, I think, and actually, I think that there was. Okay, don't quote me on this. I know there was a 60-minute.
I'm going to quote you on it.
Okay.
I don't know where I quote you.
You actually you can quote me. I
So
know.
Andy Schill,
He's saying it's Russians.
last week
Yeah.
said,
Yeah. So there was some news source, a credible news. No, I'm sorry. There's no such thing as credible news sources now.
Yeah.
You got to listen to everything and then make your own decision. But some source was multiple sources have said that, and according to, I think some U.S. agency came out and said that there was some like natural phenomenon amongst a shitload of crickets that happened to make some noise that's been recorded multiple times that is similar to the noise that some of these people in Cuba are reporting as hearing.
Yeah.
I forgot all about this.
Yeah.
Like I remember years ago.
Hey,
about it.
I'm on the conspiracy train
You're a
though.
big
I'm on the
buddy,
Russia.
you're a
I'm on the
UFO
Russia
guy,
train.
You know.
Have you seen anything backpacking that was kind of weird?
No, I haven't. But I did. Did you guys listen to this? I can't remember who the podcast. I don't know whether it was Outside Magazine or another. I can't remember who it was. But this there was a podcast that connected owls. You know, who
Yeah.
with aliens.
Oh.
And then like every time an owl shows up, there's an alien sighting nearby. But it was a really well done. I want to say it was Outside because it was like an NPR.
Yeah.
You know how NPR does. You know, it just
Yeah.
really well done.
Yeah.
Podcast. But not saying your podcast is not well done. But
I mean,
you know,
we're not NPR level. We're in my basement right now, John.
well, I am too. So.
It's true.
But yours is much better.
It's just the backdrop looks nice. That's it. It's still a basement.
That's the other thing. You guys are going to be overwhelmed with kids' toys.
Yes,
a lot of
my upstairs is already like that. I've lasted down here as like the last bastion of adult freedom, and we'll see how long that lasts.
Look, so what? How old is she?
She's almost 2.
Oh man,
She's young.
This is like you're about to enter the fun. Well, as far as I hear with girls, you're about to enter the fun age because they really are just lovable, adorable, and stuff. But boys, and Andy, what do you have?
He's got
A boy, 8 months.
Yeah. So my boys,
I like that
2 years old
hesitation.
when they turned into
You're
monsters. You know, this is nonstop. From the moment those little guys wake up, it's like. And I was talking with my sister the other day, and she might be listening up in Canada, but they. From the moment they wake up until the moment they go to bed, they are fighting. I mean, attacking one another. Like, And I called my sister the other day, and I said, "Oh, these guys are killing me." You know, I'm at wit's end, and she just laughs. And I said, "What are you laughing at?" She goes, "Oh, when you and your brother, when we were all kids, we would sit and watch cartoons, and when the commercial came on, it was like." One end of the couch to the other. We'd meet in the middle, and we would wrestle and fight.
Beat
and
the
then
shit out of each other. Yeah, that's funny. I've heard girls are like really nice, like what you're saying, but then when the teenage years hit, it kind of flips. So
yeah,
that's what I've been told. We'll see. All right, man.
Hey, I want to ask you the question.
Yeah, you want to ask? Yeah, fire away.
Yeah. So what do you guys got on the docket? What are you guys doing for hikes?
Wow.
So we literally
a few days ago.
Several things. So we're going. We haven't. So the next thing next month, we're going somewhere for multiple days. It's either going to be West Virginia or Pennsylvania. We haven't totally knocked that out yet.
It's hard right now.
The next thing we just booked is right after 4th of July. We're going back to Colorado for 4 or 5 days. And then the next thing after that, we got our permits. We got our Yosemite permits.
Oh,
for
nice.
the end
Nice.
of. I'm going to ask you the same question. So the end of like August, early September, we're going up there. So we've got like a Midwest thing in May. We'll do probably something in Ohio in June, and then July we're going to Colorado, and then August we're going to Yosemite. So we're just now like trying to buy plane tickets before they get like egregiously expensive.
I know. We're looking at vacation this summer, and we're looking at going over to Europe and spending about a month and
nice.
just renting a house and stuff. But the prices for houses are great, but it's the airlines.
Yeah, getting over there.
I mean, it's just massive.
What backpacking trips? When are you taking? You're going to take your son on an actual warm weather trip?
I've got to focus only on small, short backpacking stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be out to either Dolly Sod or doing small section of the AT.
Nice.
How far is Dolly Sods from you?
So I can get there in less than 3 hours.
Oh, that's
nice.
Great.
That's nice.
Yeah, dude, West Virginia. Matter of fact, I had dinner last night with the West Virginia Adjutant General, who is the commander of the West Virginia National Guard.
Nice.
And he and I were talking about it. I said, hey, I go out to Dolly Sods all the time. My sister's got a cabin at the ski, place at Timberline right there.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And you guys are big skiers too, right?
Yeah.
I am as well. I've been skiing since I was 6 and
nice.
skiing around the world. So, he was like, oh yeah, that place is great. And so West Virginia built this highway coming off of Route 81, which is the north-south highway right in between West Virginia and Virginia. And they built this direct highway going right out towards Canadian Valley. And you can get there.
Yeah.
It used to take you 5 hours.
Yeah.
You had to go back roads. I mean, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're there in less than 3 hours.
That's
awesome.
I wish we had that.
Check out. Have you been Cranberry?
How long does it take you guys to get Dolly Sods?
5.
It's like 5. Yeah, which isn't bad. I mean, considering the quality. But you've also, where you are, you got Virginia, you've got the Carolinas. You have much better access to backpacking.
You got all the AT stuff.
Probably the only south that I've done is Old Rag in Virginia, which is kind of at the base of Shenandoah Trail. But mostly, so I grew up out towards Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I go out in the in the Appalachians, Catoctin Mountains area time. It's not great, but it's a small hiking. It's good. They just don't let you camp, so you got to stealth camp.
It's all better than Ohio, where we probably have the worst backpacking. Indiana, I always joke. Indiana and Illinois. Illinois got Shawnee National Forest.
But you guys have done the UP, right?
Yes, a few times.
I've been talking with my sister. I really want to get up to the UP.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Very short season if you want to do it in the summer, but it's far from you, honestly. It's
that's got to be an adventure.
It's super far from us, but the UP is gorgeous.
So my plan is to get right to it. My plan is when I retire, and I'm going to retire probably soon.
PCT.
Yeah. Are you doing the PCT? Is you doing the AT? You through hiking?
Definitely not going to do the AT.
Oh, yes. He's one of us. He's one of us.
Everybody and their brother does the AT.
Yeah.
And I was born and raised on the East Coast, and I lived in New England forever. I'll do the long trail before I do the AT.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm deciding right now between the PCT and the Continental Divide. So,
hey man, we're gonna send you some resupplies when you're out there. We'll send you whatever. We'll send you a bottle of scotch.
The PCT. The PCT has got a massive community too, but I just can't get over how awesome it is, the types of biomes that you hike through.
Especially if you're coming from the eastern US like we are. It's like totally different. Good.
So everybody's like, don't do the CDT, and I'm like, why? And they're like,
it's a lot of road walking.
A lot of road
drinking
walking.
from those cow things. Those big cow troughs. I don't know. Right? Like New Mexico.
A lot of road walking.
So my grandparents had a ranch out in Missouri, and as small kids, we used to swim in those things. So,
do you want to drink out of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Filter it, Sawyer squeeze, baby.
Yeah, the thing that is a little freaky about the CDT, and like I followed IB Tats I watched
if
all of
you're
his videos. I mean,
Habitat's CDT series is really good. If you're curious about the CDT.
the multiple videos where he encounters from a safe distance grizzlies, and that would just
the northern part of the CDT.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The dinner I was at last night, a couple of the guys from the Muslim countries, we were talking about hiking and stuff, and they started asking about bears, and they're like, "Are bears a problem around here?" And we, the adjutant general from West Virginia and I were like, "No." They're like, "Oh, well, I went out to Yellowstone," and I was like, "Oh, well, that's a different story."
That's a different story than the black bears.
Yeah.
That's
and you guys were talking the other week about the what was it, 238 that woman used on the moose?
It was a 380, right?
380.
It's a 380.
380.
Yeah.
It's probably a bad choice.
In hindsight, I think that was a poor choice.
No, like I said, that's a good caliber to kill yourself when you're being eaten alive. So,
all right. On that note, all right. We're gonna wrap this up.
Okay,
John, stay on the line. Stay on the line.
Yeah,
by the way,
I will.
Everyone else, thank you for watching.
Yeah,
this is good. I feel like
did we have? So I didn't have the live chat. Did we have numbers tonight? Nobody cares about.
No. There's a bunch of people. If you go back and rewatch this, Andy and I, there's a lot of comments. We have ignored them completely.
For third comment was Brittany's pregnant.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, she is. She is.
Before or after she did the roll on the beach with the.
I saw that. Yeah, see, he's plugged in. There are a lot of comments. Go back.
I don't like blondes, but she's hot.
Yeah, there's something about her, man.
Yeah. I watch this.
No, go back if you're curious. Read the comments. There's a ton of them. We've been ignoring them.
One comment that I want to address here. David Fink says he's commenting on different bourbons, and he says the Old Weller Antique is the same recipe as Pappy, and it's way cheaper.
We heard that when we were there.
Hold on a second. It may be the same. It may be the same recipe, but it's not like aged the same way. I mean, we drink. We heard that when we were there. We drink antique
So I
all
tell
the
you
time.
what, listen, why don't you and I send him our addresses and he can send us a bottle and we'll test it.
Yeah, I mean we
unopened bottle.
Yeah, send us a bottle of Pappy, and we can get antique every Saturday. So it's not hard here. So yeah, everybody's commenting in the chat now about you ignored us. Well, sorry. That's life.
Yeah, get over it. I mean, listen, if you on a Friday night, if you can't take some time and talk about what's going on in the world, which could potentially explode into World War III, then you might want to rethink your priorities.
Well, I think like Kevin and I always get going on these rants, and then we were thinking like, are the things that we're saying, is this accurate? Because like, are we being led astray? Are we?
No, and that's why I reached out.
That's
absolutely why I reached out. And again, I don't know everything, and it's my view.
Right.
I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with friends all around the community.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, look, we don't know why the hell they're doing what they're doing, but I do know this, is that Ukraine is a great country.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of friends from Ukraine or have served in Ukraine, and they're getting the shit killed out of them by these guys, and for no reason. Yeah. For no reason. They're just dying. And if you watch, everybody that's listening right now, or is going to watch it later, go back and watch the 60-minute Zelensky
I saw that.
interview.
Yeah.
Go back and watch that. If you don't walk away from that saying, I'm ashamed that we didn't do more as the superpower of the world, then there's something wrong with you.
Could you imagine being like a 17 or 18-year-old Russian conscript in like an armored personnel carrier, just being like, are you kidding me? Riding through Ukraine? Like,
did you listen to that audio cut
the phone call, the dude calling his mom?
Yeah. Where he's like, hey, I killed civilians, I committed a war crime. He didn't say that, but he's like, hey, I killed civilians. I'm really, distraught. And in her mind, because everything they're feeding them back home is like, she says, you're fine. They're traitors. They're Nazis. Really? Nazis?
What is that?
Fucking country's being
what
led
is
by
that about? Why?
It's that.
Why?
It's the one unit. It's the one unit that.
What's the rhetoric about Ukrainians being Nazis? What's that about?
that's the narrative that the Russians are using.
Why are they
by Ukraine because they're being led by Nazis?
okay? That's not real though, right?
Well, okay, like
No, it's
they're
not. No,
no,
but
they're
go
not
back
being
to
led
Putin's-
by
Go back to
Nazis.
Putin's mentality.
Yeah.
What do the Russian people know? That they've been invaded by Nazis. The last time they were invaded, it was by Nazis.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So that's what they've been taught in school. So if I use that narrative and go back and say, I'm going to go with what you know, and you can hate these guys, I'm going to use it. But it's about credibility.
Do you think
if the
the
video doesn't match the audio, then you're just a moron.
Did the
Putin's proving to be kind of a moron.
did like is the Russian population like largely behind this? Because the propaganda worked that well?
No, it's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
It's about the will of the people, and Russia is fighting an unlimited war. Ukraine's fighting Russia is fighting unlimited.
Yeah.
Ukrainians are fighting unlimited. They're all in, because they need to win. They need to live. Russians, they don't fucking know.
Yeah.
It's like the U.S. and Vietnam. I mean, we're sending guys over there
Yeah.
for years and years, and they're just dying. And what
That's
are they
an
dying for?
interesting
And Ho Chi Minh's like,
parallel.
I'm gonna kill every single American you send. So
That's a really interesting parallel. Like, is Russia going into Ukraine as much of a quagmire as the U.S. going into Vietnam?
or
worse.
Iraq,
Yeah.
or Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Name the quagmire.
What would it take for the U.S. to get actually involved in this?
attacking NATO.
Like, is that what it is? Or is it chemical weapons? Or is it like some egregious human rights violation?
Well, there was an accusation of
Right.
the Russians using chemical weapons
Right.
in Mariupol, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And hasn't our administration said like that's a line in the sand?
Yeah, but
I had a great conversation the other day with one of my students, who's a State Department guy, and I firmly believe that if you look at what the UN just did, okay, this Security Council is going to be very constrained by doing what they can do. All right, why? Because Russia's on it, and anytime one member of the Security Council vetoes, it's done.
Yeah.
But if the main body, votes on something like they did to boot Russia out of the Human Rights Council, I mean, I think it's probably appropriate.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
I thought
seems
so,
it
too.
seems appropriate.
That's
given
called. Do you guys ever see the movie? And I said this to my students. Do you guys ever watch the movie 13 Days?
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. You remember the conversation? There were two conversations, really. One, really the one I'll talk about is where the character that was playing Secretary of Defense McNamara was having the conversation with the Chief of Naval Operations, and they're in the operations center in the Pentagon, right? And the Chief of Naval Operations is on the phone with the boat who's out, the ship. Sorry to all my Navy friends, with the ship that's out getting ready. He's paralleling, mirroring the Russian trawler or freighter. And he says, "Clear your guns." And he shoots a star cluster. And Secretary McNamara freaks out. "What are you doing?" "Yeah, that wasn't my order." He's like, "Hey, no, we're just sending a message." And he goes, and he starts screaming at him and talks, addresses him down and says, "Hey, this is language. Okay, everything we're doing, guys, is language nowadays. So every action we do, every action we don't do is language that we're communicating. When a State Department rep said in, I think, 1990 or 1989 that Kuwait wasn't that important, Saddam Hussein invaded.
Yeah.
When Dean Acheson, said about South Korea that it wasn't all that important to us, North Korea invaded. When we communicated that we're not going to do X, Y, and Z with regard to Ukraine, Putin invaded. Communication, words have meaning. My wife is a lawyer, so words have meaning, my friends.
My wife is a lawyer as well. Nice. We should start a club.
Sorry. Yeah.
The lawyer husbands.
We'll take them skiing. They can sit in the lounge by the fire while we rip some turns. Yeah.
My wife actually really enjoys skiing. True story.
Does she? Good.
Yeah, she does. We got her out there. What?
Does she play poker?
No. Does yours?
Yeah. She's so good.
That's pretty funny.
Poker.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Anything else?
Enough. We've been going for a while. Oh my God.
Almost 2 hours.
Apple's not going to like this.
Stay on the line, John. We're going to wrap this up. We're probably going to have him back on as this
you're
unfolds.
going to be our foreign policy.
Foreign policy correspondent. Yes. I really do appreciate you taking the time to school us on all this stuff, and it's really it's
not schooling, and I'm not the expert. Man.
No, but you know more than us.
It's a different opinion,
and we should have said this up front, but thank you for your service to this country.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
That's something that kind of goes without saying, and that's
Hey, so listen, I went to that retirement ceremony I mentioned in the beginning. I went to that retirement ceremony today, and I was in the first Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan. I was off the coast of Haiti. I've done a lot of stuff, regardless of whatever position I was in. I wasn't a SEAL, I wasn't a Ranger dropping in or whatever, but I've been doing a lot of stuff for a long time, and it doesn't matter. The retirement ceremony I went to today, this guy, the stuff he's done, 30-year career, I couldn't help but get a teary eye because I'm a patriot. I'm an institutionalist. I love this country, and I've dedicated my life to it. So it's fun. And it's hard sometimes when we've seen what we've seen in the past couple of years. Now we're going to get political. I'll leave it at that. But it's been ugly the past couple of years. And so I've been working on a paper recently about what the problem is with our country and what the greatest threat is right now. And I'll tell you, it's two things. One, it's hubris, that we're arrogant because we think we're the best power in the world. And the second thing is we're politically divided.
Yes.
We have partisanship that creates our inability to govern.
Mm-hmm.
We can't get anything done in Congress.
I agree.
So hopefully we get past that, because at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, where you come from, what color you are, who you sleep with, or whatever. We're all Americans, and we believe in one thing, and that's freedom. That's getting along and having a good time. And being able to have a good podcast on Friday night.
Yeah.
Amen.
Hey, I'm voting for you, man.
Yeah. You run, we're voting.
I'm voting for you.
I'll run for office as soon as I'm done. You're on the campaign.
All right, John, stay on the line. Everybody else.
Yeah,
thanks for tuning in. Enjoy your Fridays.
Yeah. Future backpacking content.
Yes, future backpacking content. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.